Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Brenda Moynihan, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Outreach here at the Kensington Assisted Living in White Plains. Today's presentation is Resources, Tips, and Strategies for Living with a Neurological Disorder, Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, brain injury, and Alzheimer's disease. During the presentation, we will gain an understanding from our neurological specialists plus caregivers who will share their experiences and insight about how to manage challenges with some neurological diseases. Before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to briefly give you some information about the Kensington. The Kensington is an enhanced assisted living, and we are committed to providing outstanding care every day with a full spectrum of clinical support, including caring for those with Alzheimer's and additional dementias. Our promise is to love and care for your family as we do our own. We are bringing this presentation to you today because we want to provide information and resources that will support you on your journey if you have a loved one with diseases such as Parkinson's, MS, brain injury, or Alzheimer's, or would like to gain information about these diseases. If you'd like to contact the Kensington, please feel free to call us at 914-390-0080 or go to our website at www.thekensingtonwhiteplains.com. There will be a Q&A at the end of the presentations. So please, folks, if you've got questions, please wait until the fourth speaker speaks, and then we can open it up to questions here on your Zoom. And now please join me in welcoming our speakers for this evening. I'm going to read all of their bios to you. Nancy Nealon. Nancy is the Community Program Manager at the Parkinson's Foundation, New York and New Jersey chapter. She's a licensed New York State social worker. For the last 5 years, her work has centered on a variety of roles and capacities for the Parkinson's community, including program planner, support group leader, fundraiser, educator, and more. Welcome, Nancy. Debbie Bennett. Debbie is the Community Engagement Manager at the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. Debbie oversees 60 self-help groups over a market area that encompasses New York City, Long Island, the Lower Hudson Valley, and Connecticut. She is a national onboarding trainer and for peer connection volunteers and works to connect community partners to the society. Welcome, Debbie. Layleen Ali. Layleen is a certified brain injury specialist with the Brain Injury Association of New York State. As a family advocacy, counseling, and training services coordinator for the Brain Injury Association, she serves individuals who have sustained a brain injury before the age of 22. Layleen provides supportive counseling, system advocacy, information, and referral, as well as additional services. She also facilitates a brain injury support group here in Westchester County. Welcome to our event, Layleen. Joan Nemo. Joan is a care consultant and director of professional education at the Hudson Valley, New York Chapter Alzheimer's Association. She's been working with people with dementia plus their caregivers for over 20 years, including a private practice in New York City and the Berkshires. Welcome, Joan. And our caregiver MC, Janet Goodman. Janet is a licensed master social worker and certified case manager at Burke Rehabilitation Hospital. She's been a social worker for over 40 years. Her goal has been to help patients and caregivers be adaptable, flexible, and connected as their needs change in life. She cared for her father who had Parkinson's disease for 12 years and is currently caring for her 98-year-old mother who suffers from Alzheimer's disease. Welcome, Janet. Welcome, everyone. And our first speaker will be Nancy. Nancy, come on down.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. And thank you for having and featuring the Parkinson's Foundation. How does that look? Brenda, can you let me know if that looks okay on the screen?
Looks good.
Okay, great. Thank you again, everyone, and my apologies for fumbling there at the beginning, but I'm, as Brenda said, Nancy Nealon from the Parkinson's Foundation from the New York, New Jersey chapter, and really honored to be here today to tell you all about the Parkinson's Foundation, what Parkinson's disease is, a little bit about that, and what we do. So getting started, you might wonder, if you don't know, what Parkinson's disease is all about. And there are really two things here that on this screen slide that I'd like to really highlight. Parkinson's disease is not just about tremors. Parkinson's disease can affect just about anything that our bodies are supposed to do, from movement, of course, mood and thinking. But healthy lifestyle choices can make a difference. And Parkinson's disease is really a slowly progressive disease. People that can live very well for many years with Parkinson's, knowing the right resources. And of course, Parkinson's Foundation is one of those right resources. So who gets Parkinson's disease? On average, 60,000 people each year are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. It is definitely part of the age wave tsunami as we encounter more and more people growing old over the age of 60. That's your highest risk. An estimated 1 million people in the United States, 10 million worldwide have Parkinson's disease. And most are over the age of 60 when diagnosed. Oftentimes people think, of course, of Michael J. Fox. He is really in the minority in terms of those who are young onset. Really, people diagnosed under the age of 50 account for only 15% of the total population of people with Parkinson's disease. I've met people as old as 93 who've been diagnosed at the tender age of 93, many in their 60s, 70s, 80s, etc. So what causes Parkinson's disease? Of course, that is the big question. And the answer is we don't know exactly, not yet anyway, working to find that out. But there are some really leading contenders here in terms of what people believe are the possible causes. Although Parkinson's generally is not hereditary, there certainly can be a genetic factor for some. What is strongly thought is that there are environmental risk factors at work. Exposure to pesticides, heavy metals can increase your risk. Many people who have grew up on farms, grew up around pesticides, etc. Individuals who served in Vietnam and were exposed to Agent Orange, who if they develop Parkinson's, it's a presumptive disorder right off the bat. So Agent Orange is identified as a major risk factor. So we know it can be both a combination, or it's thought to be both a combination of certainly some kind of physiological risk factors, but as well environmental factors. But there's still a lot to be determined. Sometimes actually severe shock, head injury, which we'll also talk about today, but those are much more rare complications that are known to be connected to Parkinson's disease. So what should you know about symptoms? And this is really an important part of all that I'm going to share. I mentioned right from the get-go that Parkinson's can affect any and every system that we have in our body. It's not just about tremors. And if we're talking about tremors, it's a resting tremor. It's not when you go to move your arm or your leg or whatever part that might have a tremor. Parkinson's is all about the resting tremor. But there are many, many, many non-motor symptoms as well. One hallmark is called bradykinesia, and that is a real stiffness, slowness of movements. And certainly that's what neurologists and movement disorder specialists look for. But Parkinson's is a snowflake disease. It varies from person to person. If you have met one person with Parkinson's, you honestly have just met one person with Parkinson's. The list of non-motor symptoms is much greater than the list of motor symptoms total. And so there's a lot to know and to understand about what Parkinson's is. So to tell you a little bit about what the Parkinson's Foundation does in response to supporting our community is essentially we want to make life better for people living with Parkinson's. And we do that by improving care and advancing research towards a cure. And I can tell you with great honesty that we do all of this by building on the energy, experience, and passion of our global Parkinson's community. We have so much to support a person, a care partner, family members in their journey with Parkinson's disease. And everything we do to make life better for people with PD. So I can tell you a little bit more, and hopefully this will explain and clearly illustrate what we do, how we do it. We operate basically on 3 pillars. The first one is improving care, and that's through our Center of Excellence network. We have 47 centers throughout the country, 8 additional and international locations, and that number is growing. They do a range of things, and specialized care, movement disorder specialists, number 1 factor of being a center of excellence, in addition to many other parts. We do a lot of research. We fund a lot of research. We fund young researchers. We fund basic science research. We want to know, why does the dopamine stop being produced in the brain? Because that's the key here of why Parkinson's happens. The dopamine production slowly gets cut off, the cells that are supposed to produce dopamine. And the third pillar is empowering and educating our global community. And that's much more what I'm involved in my role as community program manager. But these are the 3 goals, or our 3 pillars that we pursue. A huge initiative that we launched early, I think it was last year, because it was launched before the pandemic, is called PD Generation. And this is all about the genetic role for some folks in Parkinson's. If we can learn more about the genes that have been identified at putting people at risk, that will tell us a lot about what we need to do to fix and slow down the progression, stop the disease altogether. So if any of you out there watching and you're interested, I'm going to share our helpline number. You can email our helpline. You can find out if you are eligible to participate in PD Generation. And I hope you'll consider it if Parkinson's is part of your family. Another way, and this is, I mentioned or alluded to this a little earlier, how we really truly our work is so informed by involving the Parkinson's community. This is another new initiative that we have. We have one person who's totally devoted to our survey process, and we enroll both people with Parkinson's, care partners, family members. If you are interested in being part of our survey process, you'll be called upon about 3 to 4 times a year to respond to 20-minute surveys or so. And they range in topic from telemedicine, cannabis, mental health issues, veterans, we have many, many topics. All that information, then that analysis of that information helps to inform what we do, how we do it, and to move our mission forward even more. So I mentioned our helpline, and what I didn't mention that is our website. So let me take a moment. Pretty much everything we publish that you can get for free, all of our booklets, fact sheets, etc., everything is available directly on our website, parkinson.org. If you want to look at something immediately, go to parkinson.org. It's all there. If you want to order something, call our helpline, 1-800-4PD-INFO. They will be happy to do that order for you, to get things sent. You can also email our helpline, helpline@parkinson.org. They will respond to your questions, to anything that you're wondering about. And if you have, sometimes people hear something on the radio or read an article about some new study and they want more information, call our helpline. They will find information for you going forward. And then I wanted to just focus in on care partners. November, as we know, is Family Care Partner Month, and we're doing a lot of special programs to support, excuse me, care partners. But here are a few things that we try and relate to people is to really build your knowledge about Parkinson's. That will help tremendously, since it can be a very curious and odd disease at times. It's all about your healthcare team in Parkinson's in for the long run here. The movement disorder specialist, physical therapies, therapist, OTs, social work, dietitian, there's even more. You won't need all these people necessarily at once, but having that care team is really vital. I can't say enough about support groups, how important they are, connecting with someone who's been there doing this a while, financial planning, and then think of your local resources as well, local area office on aging, New York Connects, etc. Since the pandemic, we have launched PD Health at Home, 3 days of programming each week, Mindfulness Mondays, Wellness Wednesdays, Fitness Fridays. We've archived everything we've done since last summer of 2020. Everything is, you'll find at parkinson.org/PD Health. I encourage you, if you're interested, to take part in all that we have to offer. Of course, it's all free of charge. And once again, back to Care Partners for a minute, we specifically have a booklet. It's called Caring and Coping. We have recently launched a whole online course for care partners. There are 20 plus courses that you can meander through at your own pace. We also hold virtually right now care partner town halls. And right now they're also virtual, but we also have summits, care partner summits. And this is a little bit on the course. And lastly, I'll give another pitch for PD Health at Home. And that's it. So I probably am at my time. Okay.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much.
Sorry again about the glitch there.
And I know Nancy will be back in a little bit later, folks, if you've got questions. And I want to apologize to Debbie and Nancy. I switched it around a little bit. I wanted to keep you awake. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, Nancy. Our next speaker for this afternoon is Debbie. Debbie, I know you're there. Hey there.
Hi. Hi, Brenda. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks, Nancy, for thinking of me. As Nancy mentioned, November is National Caregiver Appreciation Month. And so to all the caregivers out there, I want to say thank you so much. And we do appreciate you very much. So I've been working for the National MS Society for 27 years, and I work out of the New York City office. We can go to the first slide, please. I'm going to start off by telling you just a little bit about, the next one. Thanks. The next slide will talk about what is MS. So MS is a disease of the central nervous system, which includes the brain, optic nerve, and the spine. And it is considered immune mediated, which, or some people say autoimmune, but immune mediated means when there is no specific antigen, but misguided immune cells called T cells cross the blood-brain barrier, which is never a good thing. They release chemicals that attack the myelin. Myelin is like a protective fatty tissue that covers the nerve endings. When that happens, the myelin gets stripped away. It leaves many scars, MS, that's what MS stands for, many scars along that pathway, and it causes inflammation, symptoms, and then destruction. We have found that more women than men are generally diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, often between the ages of 20 and 50. That does not preclude men or children from getting MS. We have seen that as well. There are 4 disease courses. The first one called clinically isolated syndrome, and it usually is just a first attack that a person might have. Maybe they never have one again, and you never know. Then relapsing remitting MS is generally identified by continued relapses, short relapses, with maybe a little lingering disability. Over a period of 10 years, often people move into secondary progressive MS, which means that they have longer exacerbation periods more frequently, and a lot of people move into that phase. Or primary progressive MS, which means that there is no exacerbations that take place, but from onset of disease, people just tend to progress. And although there is no cure, MS is not fatal. There are treatments for it, and I'll briefly touch on that later. But the most important thing to know is that, I guess like Parkinson's, it's kind of a snowflake disease. So every person with MS experiences it differently, and every individual might also experience it individually. Because what one person might be able to do one day, they might not be able to do the next. Next slide, please. Again, like Parkinson's, I think that you have to hit the slide button because they sort of fly in. So I think you have to hit next, and you'll get the rest of that slide on, if you know what I mean. But I'll keep talking anyway. So we don't really know what causes MS, but there is a genetic, I'm sorry, am I still on? Yeah, okay, I see myself talking. So there is also a genetic predisposition to multiple sclerosis, but it is not directly inherited. So if you have a family member with MS, you will have a higher risk. But the risk in the general population is about 1 in 750 to 1,000. We know that some type of infectious agent is involved. That could be some type of a virus like Epstein-Barr or bacteria. And that definitely some environmental factors have an impact, like smoking, obesity, or low levels of vitamin D. I'm ready for the next slide if you can get it up, and if not, I'm just going to keep talking. So the next slide would be symptoms and treatment. Thank you. So I'm not going to go through all of these symptoms. I'm just going to mention like the most common symptom is depression. This is a depression that is physiological and not situational. And there is definitely treatment for it. Fatigue, about 80% of people with MS talk about this chronic overwhelming fatigue, not something like I didn't sleep well last night, but overwhelming incapacitating fatigue. And about 50 to 60% of people during their course of MS will experience some type of cognitive changes. That could be information processing or memory or verbal fluency. All of these symptomatic, all these symptoms have treatments which treat the symptom but not the underlying disease. For that, there are about 20 or over 20 immunomodulating treatments, which have shown to reduce exacerbations and slow the progression of the disease. Next slide, please. And so the National MS Society's vision is a world free of MS, and our mission is that we will cure MS while empowering people affected by MS to live their best lives. Next slide, please. So the National MS Society was founded in 1946 by Sylvia Lowry, who placed this tiny ad in the New York Times. Her brother had been living with MS, and she asked if anyone else out there had been cured with the disease to please reach out to her. Well, she got a lot of people reaching out to her, not people who'd been cured, but people who were calling her for support. And so she realized the need for an organized effort to encourage and finance research into cause, treatment, and cure for multiple sclerosis. So she created a movement by and for people affected by MS, and we are now a 50-state network leading a global charge. Then she founded the MS International Foundation, which means there are MS societies around the globe. She also played a critical role in establishing the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke at the National Institutes for Health. But 2021 marks the 75th year since the National MS Society was founded, and we've profoundly changed what it means to live with multiple sclerosis. We're getting closer to a cure every day, and though we haven't fully achieved our mission yet, Life with MS wouldn't be what it is today if it weren't for the National MS Society. Next slide, please. So we are guided by a bold strategic plan to change the world and mobilize all possible and financial and human resources to find solutions for everyone who's impacted with MS. We're a multifunctional volunteer organization committed to funding research. We are the largest private funder of MS research in the United States. For advocacy, we empower people to help affect public policy change on the federal, state, and local levels. Our programs are supported by various special events that raise funds like Bike MS, Walk MS, Climb MS. We try to raise awareness by helping others understand the complex and unpredictable disease that MS is. And we believe strongly in comprehensive healthcare, providing access to affordable, high-quality healthcare. Next slide, please. Some of our services include our MS Navigator program. This is a nationwide team of highly skilled professionals who provide one-to-one solutions for complex problems. So people call navigators and get information and referrals to service providers. They call if maybe they need case management services, and we send a nurse or a social worker to someone's home to put multiple services in place for that person. We have a financial assistance program for when all other resources have failed. We can assist, for example, if someone is purchasing a wheelchair and their insurance only paid 80% and they couldn't afford 20%, we might be able to help with that. Our navigators are available from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The phone number there is on the screen, and they're available by phone, by email, or by chatting. Next slide, please. So throughout the years, the society has provided services and advocated for quality healthcare, because while we're searching for a cure, we do help people meet the daily needs and challenges of living with multiple sclerosis. The impact we're trying to make through our services is to empower people to solve everyday challenges by connecting them to information and resources and community support that results in positive life changes. We have educational programs that are available when we meet in person. They're available in person, or lately they've been virtual. Some of them are phone-based. We have monthly MS webinars, which often talk about symptom management. We have a Pathways to Wellness program. We have a weekly Ask an Expert program. We have a Facebook community learning. We have a specific Black MS experience. We have a Real Talk podcast. All of these programs bring the latest news from MS experts. And the beautiful thing about these programs is that they're all archived on our website. So we have a calendar, the address there is on the screen, that lists all of these programs and past programs that you might have missed. So in addition, access, as I mentioned, access to affordable, high quality healthcare is essential to people living with multiple sclerosis, which is why we collaborate with partners in MS Care and comprehensive care centers. Our healthcare access team works to outreach, educate, and inspire healthcare professionals to focus on MS. They do this through clinical fellowships, medical student mentorships, and professional education opportunities. We work pretty hard on trying to recruit the next generation to focus their career on multiple sclerosis. And we have a very handy tool online called Find Doctors and Resources, our FDR, on our website, where you can type in your zip code, the type of service provider you're looking for, and a list of people that we partner with will come up. Next slide, please. So here you can visually see all the connection opportunities that are available. Our connection programs offer emotional support and a chance to network with other people. We talked a little bit about the Navigator program. These are resources and information from professionals, our trained staff who provide that information. Our self-help groups, those are community connection and group conversation-based programs. They could include targeted populations, mostly led by a person affected by MS. Am I running out of my time? I'll be
Yeah.
very quick. Okay, I'm very quick. MS Friends is a one-to-one peer support program through our helpline or pairing individuals with people. Cafe Con Leche is a support group that's in Spanish. And we have a Facebook community group. The next slide is more geared towards our care partners. And just so you know, we have a number of self-help groups, which are generally run by somebody who's affected by MS. You will meet one of the leaders of our group later today who can tell you about her group. We have a brochure that's called a Guide for Care Partners and a website page just geared for care partners. So I thank you for your attention. I'm sorry I took so long. And thank you, Brenda. You can take over.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. A lot of good information, folks. And just a reminder, after the event, we will send the information on all our speakers. So all this good information, if you'd like it, you can ask them directly. And I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Laylene. I see she's here already. Hey, Laylene, how you doing?
Hi, everybody. So we'll just wait for the presentation to come up on screen. Okay, great. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lillian Ali, and I'm with the Brain Injury Association of New York State. I cover the Hudson Valley area, which includes Westchester, Rockland, Orange, and Sullivan counties. Next slide, please. So a little bit about us. We are a membership nonprofit organization that was established in 1982 to help families and individuals across New York State that have been impacted by brain injuries. Next, please. So this is the only statistic you're going to see today, is that every 10 seconds, someone in the United States suffers a traumatic brain injury. Now, when I started about 14 years ago, this number used to be every 23 seconds. So as we can see that it is definitely more prevalent today for a variety of reasons, including accidents, acquired brain injuries, and so on. So we'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. Next, please. All righty, so we're going to cover two types of brain injuries today. Acquired brain injury is one that happens after birth. It's not hereditary or degenerative like the ones that we've heard about previously, like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. It is what you see when someone has a stroke or an aneurysm or has a heart attack and suffers a lack of oxygen to the brain, and an anoxic injury. And a traumatic brain injury is when the head hits a stationary object, such as in a car crash or sports injuries. Many people think that concussions are not severe or not, they're not brain injuries. However, concussions are a mild traumatic brain injury. Shaken baby syndrome is a big issue as well, where the brain just whooshes around in the skull because it's basically floating in there in fluid, in cerebrospinal fluid. Now, falls are a leading cause of brain injury for all age groups, especially the older population, who are especially vulnerable to falls for a variety of reasons, such as medication side effects, which may cause issues with balance. They may have lower vision and mobility issues. It's very important that we're mindful of safety precautions for our older population, as well as assessing their fall risk. Next slide, please. All righty, so this slide is packed with information. So the takeaway from this slide is that all the different parts of the brain work together in how we function every day. So you can imagine if an injury occurs to the frontal lobe or the temporal lobe, any of these lobes, how it would impact our functioning. Some people have difficulty cognitively, some people have difficulty physically. Some people may experience both cognitive and physical difficulties after a brain injury. As you can see, it is definitely the supercomputer of our entire body controls everything we do, feel, our emotions, everything about us. Next, please. So you may be wondering, okay, so what do we do to help people that suffers a brain injury in New York State? We have a variety of different things, programs and services that we provide to the brain injury community across New York State. Our family helpline is one of the most important things that we do. Anyone can call the family helpline for information, resources, referrals, questions. We also offer a family fund, which someone can apply for once a year. It's a maximum of $400 that you can receive for something that may not be covered by insurance, something that you may need for assistive technology, or it could be a sling that's not covered by insurance that you may need for your arm, what have you. So that is one of the important programs that we offer. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the other things as we progress. Next slide, please. So myself and Janet Goodman, we co-facilitate the Westchester Support Group. We're currently meeting virtually every third Thursday of the month from 6 to 8 p.m. Feel free to reach out to either of us to get more information about the support group. We have support groups that are across all parts of New York State, some that are run by volunteers, as well as those that are run by staff from the Brain Injury Association. It is truly a safe space for individuals that have had a brain injury, as well as their caregivers, to come together to share ideas, problem solve, get support, get information and resources in their communities. They're all free of charge and they're listed on our website. Please feel free to look at our website for more information on support groups. Next, please. We also do a lot of training and education in the brain injury field. We train professionals, individuals in hospital, doctors, nurses. We train them on different various aspects of brain injuries. I personally go into schools and I train teachers and any of the educational professionals that are dealing with students about brain injury, not only for prevention purposes, but also for when a student is transitioning back to school after a brain injury, to assist the teachers in understanding what a brain injury is, as well as how to best help this child to learn, providing accommodations to assist teachers in learning how to teach this student best. We also do certified brain injury specialists. If there's any professionals that are listening in, we offer the training and certification exam for the brain injury specialist certification. And next, I'll talk about our annual conference and professional symposium. Next, please. Okay, so I'm a slide ahead. So I'm part of the FACTS program, and what FACTS means is Family Advocacy, Counseling, and Training Services. We're funded by a grant from the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities. I work with families very closely in navigating their recovery journey. So you have to have had an injury before the age of 22. But that being said, if someone is 50 years old and the injury was at 20 or 21 or 10, what have you, they would still qualify for the FACTS program. It is a free program. There's no cost whatsoever. And it can be in addition to whatever other services you're receiving. We have nothing to do with the TBI waiver program. You could be on the waiver. You can be participating in any other program. There's a statewide network of FACTS coordinators like myself that throughout New York State that can help individuals that have had an injury under the age of 22. Next, please. Okay, so the family helpline is definitely one of the most important things that we do. It's operational Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. Please feel free to reach out and call us for information, referrals, rehabs, whatever it is you're looking for. It's a free service, and we definitely do not want to be a best kept secret. So please feel free to reach out to us for anything that we can help with. Next, please. Alrighty, so we're currently advocating on the state level for the continuum of care, which will pattern itself after the FACTS program, so that we can work with individuals that have had an injury above the age of 22, say 22 and on, with no age cap, that we can work with these individuals in helping them navigate what they need, as well as in their journey, in their recovery journey. We work very closely with the elected officials and the state legislators, as well as on the federal level, on issues that are important to the brain injury community. We currently organize a Brain Injury Advocacy Day in Albany every year. Our next one will be hopefully in person in March of 2022. So mark your calendars for that, in an effort to raise awareness and the importance of continued funding for programs and services for the brain injury community. Next slide, please. And here are a couple of events that are coming up. Our last one was our walk back in September, which was very successful. It was virtual. Hopefully we'll be back in person next year. Our Advocacy Day, as I mentioned earlier, our next event will be our Journey of Hope Gala in next week, I believe it's coming up, as well as next, I'll be talking about our annual conference and medical symposium next. Next, please. So we hope to be in person for the next annual conference and medical symposium. These are the dates coming up in next June. We will be meeting in Saratoga Springs for this. It's an opportunity for the brain injury community across New York State to come together to learn what's new and important in the field of brain injury. Caregivers, persons with brain injury, professionals, all come together, and it is truly just an amazing, fun time in Saratoga. Next, please. And again, I'd like to just say a word about the TBI waiver program. It is run by the Department of Health. You would have to have Medicaid to participate in the TBI waiver program, where they assess what your needs are. This is for individuals that have had a brain injury above the age of 18 to 64, actually. We can provide more information to help you navigate what this is and how to go about applying for it. We can help you find a support group near to you. We're offering a caregivers only support group that meets virtually every month. It's once a month, and it is a virtual group, as well as we can provide referrals and information, whatever that you may need, through our family helpline. Next, please. So thank you for listening. This is our contact information. Feel free to connect with us on our social media platforms, and I'll be happy to answer any questions later on in the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Laylene. Very scary statistic, once every 10 seconds. Very scary.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker for today, Joan Nemo. Joan?
There I am. Thank you. I'm the technically challenged one in the group, so I just want to put that out there. Thank you, Victoria. I just wanted to say thank you, Brenda and the Kensington, for providing this wonderful program with all this excellent information for all of us. I'm glad to be able to share it, to be sharing with everyone. But as Brenda said, I'm from the Alzheimer's Association. I am a clinical social worker and a care consultant. And our vision, which may be similar to what we've heard today, is a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementias. And our mission is the Alzheimer's Association leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementias by accelerating global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and maximizing quality care and support. That's what we are about here. Now, Alzheimer's is a progressive disease. It kills brain cells, nerve cells, and tissue in the brain, and it affects the individual's ability to remember, think, plan, and ultimately function. We don't know the cause. We are doing a tremendous amount of research. The Alzheimer's Association is right behind the federal government, is the leader in research in this country. And we are determined to find the cause. But in the meantime, We are looking at what the risk factors are and what we can do to support people who are now experiencing this. So if we talk about risk factors, number one, as many of you know, is age. As we get older, at 65, we're maybe 1 in 10 chance. By the time we're 85, it's 50-50 chance. So age is number one. But that doesn't mean that everybody who, as they age, will develop Alzheimer's. We don't know why. It is not normal aging. It is a disease, and we have to remember that. The second thing, risk factor, major risk factor, is family history. If you have a first-degree relative who has Alzheimer's or had Alzheimer's, mother, father, sister, brother, you are at higher risk. That doesn't mean that you will develop. Your risk is higher. There is some genetic component to it, particularly in for what we call the younger onset, which is Alzheimer's, that can happen to anyone from 30 till 50, until you're pre-65 is considered younger onset, but that has more of a genetic component. Also, we are finding that African Americans are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's, and Latinos 1.5 times. We don't know why. Again, we don't know. It may have to do with lack of medical care. It may have to do with genetics. We just don't know, but we're looking into it. The research is there. So there are mitigating factors. Again, it's one of those things, we don't know what causes it. We don't have a cure, but there are things that we hope will help. Sorry, my cat is, sorry. The mitigating factors we've found, we've done a tremendous amount of research into this, longitudinal research that have gone on for 20 and 30 years. Diet, it's what we've heard of, diet, healthy diet, like a Mediterranean diet, not so much fats and those kinds of things. Exercise, where have we heard that to be healthy? So exercise, but any of these things, I wouldn't go out and try to run a marathon without checking with my doctor first, because that's not going to be a good idea. Also, to keep ourselves cognitively active. You often hear learn a new language, learn some, pick up a new hobby, something, but keep ourselves cognitively challenged. And my favorite is social engagement. We are finding that people who are socially engaged can stay at a higher functioning level mentally. So that's what we're going to do. And I think one of the many lessons that we've learned in this pandemic is, as people have become more isolated, we found that they have been, it has affected their mental status. So we want to be very careful about those kinds of things, but social engagement. And as a care consultant, that's one thing that I stress with many of my clients. And we'll get into some of the things that we do in a minute. But I also want to talk a little bit about what happens if you have a person that you love who is having some issues. Now, again, Alzheimer's, any dementia is not normal aging. But if someone is beginning, and as we get older, I don't remember as well as I used to. I can't physically do what I did when I was 18 either, but we change. That's acceptable. But it's when something happens that is out of the ordinary. For instance, I had a client who was a CPA, and I understand he was amazing in his field, but all of a sudden he couldn't add. That's not normal. I mean, for me, I'm not good with remembering names. I'll remember your face. I won't remember. I'll have trouble with your names. So that's, so that's okay. But if I start forgetting people's faces, that's not normal. That's when we say, get evaluated. We have wonderful evaluation sites here in Westchester, throughout the Hudson Valley, and throughout the country that we can get evaluated. But we need to work with people with dementia, and we need to accept it. One of the things that is very important to me when I talk about it is we need to accept the person. And with any of these diseases that are neurological, this is not a choice of this person. This person is not for instance, someone with Alzheimer's asking the same question 20 times in 3 minutes. They're not doing that on purpose. They're doing that because their brain is not functioning the way it was. And it's very hard as a caregiver to deal with these things. It's very difficult. I understand that and I appreciate it. I've been a caregiver personally as well as professionally. So I know what that's like. So what we want to do is help the caregivers, the care partners to be supported. So Victoria, if we could go to the next one, I'm going to start talking about some of the things that we can offer here in the Hudson Valley. And also, if you are listening from someplace else, we are a national organization. And if you'll see our 800 number, when you call that, you can locate whatever you need. But I can talk about our services here in the Hudson Valley and what we have social programs. Again, I said social engagement is so important to people. So pre-pandemic, we did a lot of things in person. We had lunch and music and art classes and things like that. We're not able to do it in person. We hope to get to that, but we are still continuing to do it on Zoom like this. So when we have what we call our Tuesday social, which used to be lunch and for the care partners, a care receiver and the caregivers would get together and have lunch, and we'd have a musician and we do some trivia and just have a fun time. We're doing that on Zoom. We can't provide lunch. You got to provide your own lunch, but we're still trying to keep that interaction going. And the Allswell Social Club, we have art programs. We have virtual pet therapy, which is great fun. Also, I mentioned that the Spanish-speaking community is very hard hit by this illness, and we do many of our programs in Spanish also. We have grants to help qualifying caregivers pay for some respite care, because caregivers, you must take care of yourself, and we want to give you that little extra time. It's they're time limited. There's a value limited, but we try to make sure that everybody gets the support they need. And Victoria, if we could, next one, please. One thing that I'm very proud of also is our 24/7 helpline. You can call that number 24 hours a day. If something happens at 3 o'clock in the morning and you don't know what to do, there is someone at the other end of the phone, a qualified person who can help you with emotional support and information. You can call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Care consultations, it's one of the things I love to do. And now I'm doing it on the phone and Zoom, but normally we would sit and talk and figure out plans, try to help people access their resources in the community. And we have wonderful resources around here. And also to work on the different challenges that come up. We have programs for people in early stage. We have our memory cafes, and for that we have support groups for early stage people who are dealing with the changes themselves and we're trying to give them support while they go through these changes. Victoria, the next one, please. Okay. Educational programs. I personally do I train professionals, I train aides at home healthcare agencies and assisted livings and nursing homes and stuff to work with people with dementia. So much is communication, so much is understanding what's going on. And we also have educational programs for caregivers to understand some of the challenges also. Again, now on Zoom, hopefully we'll be going back to on in person. And we're reaching out to try to get the word out. We do a Purple Sunday, which is a faith-based initiative where we want to increase the awareness for people in the hardest hit communities. Also, we have referrals to Medical Alert. If someone might be a wanderer, there's an ID that you can get. And also as a caregiver, you can get an ID that says, I'm the caregiver of someone. If, God forbid you go to the supermarket and something happens. So you want to make sure. Next slide, please. I'm almost done. Almost. Next slide, Victoria, please. We just finished our walk season. It's over with, but we're fundraising because everything we do is free. There's no charge for any of our services. So we have to raise our money, and that's basically it. Next one, please. We can go through this quickly, I think. Longest day is again, another way that we are trying to raise money, but we'll get into that. And I think the last slide has our number on it. Victoria, yeah, there we are. There's our helpline. There's our website. And again,
Great.
everything we do is free and out there. Please feel free to reach out, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Sorry, Brenda.
Thanks so much, Joan. No worries. Thank you. And folks, you've heard from our four, I'll say formal speakers, a lot of great information, helplines, website URLs. We're going to switch it a little bit. And again, you've heard two of the speakers talk about National Family Caregiver Month. And I want to just say that we recognize and honor the next four people that are going to talk. They are caregivers, and Janet is actually going to introduce them, and each one will talk a few minutes about their experiences. Janet, you're on mute.
Well, I get to say thank you again. How wonderful to be here with this amazing group of people. And as Brenda has said, we're going to hear next from 4 different caregivers, some of the 43.5 million caregivers who have provided unpaid care for an adult or child in the past year. We're going to start with Patricia Barry. Patricia is a retired attorney who worked for the New York State Insurance Fund in the workers' compensation field for 33 years prior to retirement. So quite a person. She's the caregiver for her husband, Robert, who was diagnosed with MS in 2001. And she wanted us to know that Robert walks with a walker and is motivated to work out on his recumbent cross-training machine for 1 hour every other day. He's not currently on any MS disease-modifying therapy due to the side effects he experienced over the years. And that's a statement that says a tremendous amount in just a short statement. He takes several medications for his MS symptoms, high blood pressure, and other conditions. We asked, could you give us an impressive and relevant achievement? And she said, when the MS Caregiver Telephone Group needed a new volunteer leader in order to continue, she stepped in. She stated she's a firm believer that self-help groups are a valuable and necessary resource for our caregivers, providing support not otherwise available. She added she knew this firsthand because she had been a participant in the group for several years when living in New York. Once she assumed co-leadership, she oversaw the group moving to a larger New York, Connecticut-based MS Care Partner Group for 4 years, even after her move to Florida in 2018. She has now seen the group through the transition to Zoom, no easy feat. And she said what sustains her is she's a long-term member of a writing group that grew out of Madeline Langel's workshops, and the group continues to meet on Zoom since the pandemic. She writes poetry about the various birds and wildlife she observes from her backyard in Florida. I think that might sustain most people, but her goals and aspirations are to accompany Robert on his journey toward overall wellness, including with his MS, to help him so that he remains stable physically and mentally. She would also like to see her poetry published. And all I can say is, please let us know when you do publish so that we can rush right out and buy a copy, and we can't wait to read your poetry. Patricia, please join us.
Unmute. I am now unmuted. All right, thank you so much. You've heard Janet speak about how I became a caregiver. It was through my husband Robert's diagnosis with MS in 2001. I'd like to speak a little about the most difficult parts of my caregiving experience. Number one is patience with myself and with Robert's needs and some insomnia, changing linens, making him a sandwich late at night. These are activities I had to adapt myself to. I've also needed patience with his various doctors for his care and medications, having to be organized and take notes, be an advocate for him, ask the questions he may not think of, such as about side effects. And I've also found it difficult to stay calm and stay strong within myself and to stop putting myself last. So what are some tips and strategies that I've learned that might help our audience? I learned how to build resilience, how to bounce back when things go wrong from the National MS Society website. I learned that resilience is something that can be learned and grows stronger like a muscle the more it is used. To be patient with myself as I build resilience. It does not happen all at once. I needed to learn that I could build my resilience so that I would not spiral into anger, impatience, or despair when things go wrong. So how did I build up my resilience? By staying strong within myself as a caregiver, taking care of myself. This gives me something in my tank, and I do think of it like a gas tank, so that I'm able to help Robert. So for me, staying strong and taking care of myself means making the time and taking the time, even just 10 or 20 minutes, to exercise, breathe deeply, find solace in my faith and prayer. I enjoy reading, journaling, throwing a ball to our dog Cody, and writing poetry, as Janet mentioned. I have great sources of support on Zoom in my writing group, dear friends for more than 20 years, and the MS Caregiver Support Group. In that group, we talk about how we care for our loved ones and take care of ourselves. Various hobbies, biking, painting, hiking, have been mentioned, and we encourage each other in that. And I have a support person, my sister. Talking to her on the phone helps me get through the day. These activities and supports are sources of joy for me and help me to stay strong. I had to convince myself that these are necessary things and to make time for them. After even a brief break, a walk around the block, just going into the next room to take a breather, I can go back to caregiving with renewed energy and a fresher perspective and outlook. Another point I had to learn about bouncing back: I have a choice about how I react when things go wrong. What do? I stay calm and patient as best I can, manage what I can do to help, adapt to what the situation requires of me now. To do this, it's important for me to live in the present and assess Robert's changing needs. I ask for the help I need. I realize there are some things I cannot do alone. For example, when Robert needed to see whether he could still drive a car, we turned to Burke Rehab for a driving evaluation. They helped us decide about hand controls. When an issue of possible new equipment or getting an aid comes up, we ask ourselves, do we need to have an outside assessment? Lastly, I go to dailycaring.com, an excellent website for caregivers for everyday tips. I found perspective on gratitude there, to remember to give thanks for the little things, a meal that goes smoothly, warm socks for Robert's cold feet. This helps me realize everything isn't all bad all the time, and it helps me stay positive. And when I stay positive, I'm a better caregiver and can tell myself, we can get through this. So in summary, I build resilience by staying strong and being patient with myself and Robert. I take time to take care of myself and have sources of joy in my life so that I have something in my tank when things go wrong. I keep in mind I have a choice about how I react to accidents or late night requests. I work at staying calm, living in the present, managing what I can, and adapting to changing needs. I ask for what I need and realize we may need an outside assessment. Lastly, I remember to give thanks for the little things. It helps me stay positive and be a better caregiver. I hope that these tips help you in your caregiving too. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this event today.
Oh, Patricia, that was really terrific. Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh my goodness. And that ability to be calm in the when all those around us are losing their heads. It's quite a skill and talent. And thank you for reminding us of that. So thank you. Oh my goodness. Next, we have Christopher Quizada. Christopher his current professional role is as a project manager and scrum master working on various consulting companies. And for any of us over a certain age, that's going to be a new term, a scrum master, and it needs a bit of explanation, which really will let you know about Chris. A scrum master acts as a coach and administrator, guiding and mentoring their team members to complete their project on time, but following scrum principles and values, which include courage, focus, commitment, openness, respect, master skills of communication, collaboration, coaching, conflict resolution, and using their strong skills to create positive team environments to improve performance. So I think we could really all use one of these. Chris is caregiving for his father, who has suffered from early onset Parkinson's since 1995. But Chris said, it's really my mom, Aura, who I care for as well. After raising 3 boys, she has had the challenge of providing care and support to my dad. And, this is really, he has really brought a tremendous amount of support and help to her. He said it's only been 3 years since he became involved in supporting his parents with his father's Parkinson's disease after noticing the emotional and physical toll it had taken on him, but more so on his mom. So his goal is to help provide support and recognition to all caregivers like his mother. So I'm just going to ask everyone on the on this webinar today if we can clone Chris and issue one of him to every family going through this. Certainly, what family doesn't need another set of hands, shoulders, and especially another working brain? Chris, your family must be so proud of you. So, Chris, come on on.
Thank you, Janet. I appreciate it. So, as you mentioned, my goal here is to talk about, my mom and the challenges she's been through over the past 27 years in helping to care for my dad after raising 3 young boys. She's very shy. I'm sure she would love to be here. She's gone through a selfless and at times exhausting journey during the ups and downs of my dad's battle, continuous battle with Parkinson's disease. In my opinion, my mom and the rest of the caregivers on this webinar are the true heroes who have sacrificed and continue to sacrifice so much more for the well-being of close loved ones. As you've heard from a lot of the presenters, I would highly encourage, just as I do with my mom, to care for yourself, right? So self-care, both mentally and physically. And you heard a lot of that from Patricia a few minutes ago, in order to ensure that you are living a happy and prosperous life. So take a walk, exercise, go to the movies, go on vacation. You deserve that and more. Remember, it's the magic of the end. If you can care for someone else and also care for yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. So it's important, you definitely take the time out, using the resources that are available, hopefully family members as well that you can reach out to and talk to, just to get that fuel tank recharged back up so you can continue helping to care for your loved ones throughout the course of the day. So kudos to all the caregivers out there and on this call for all you do. You're not forgotten, and thank you.
That sounds great. And as Chris said, everyone needs a caring community. Absolutely, because people can respond to the idea of having to take care of themselves as yet another burden that someone is asking them to take on. And really, you have to find your people and your community to help nurture you along, because this is definitely a marathon. So if you sprint, you won't have much left. So thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Janet.
And we're going to go on to our next person, Janice Cohen. Janice is a retired VP of sales for different marketing service companies, specializing in in-store merchandising and project management. Her husband is retired from New York City Board of Education as a special education teacher and education evaluator. So we have two very special people here. Janice is a full-time caregiver for her husband, Jim, and has been his caregiver through the very beginnings of his Alzheimer's disease in 2012. He received an official diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment in 2015, the same year that Janice's mother passed away. His symptoms have progressed, and he was diagnosed with severe Alzheimer's disease in January of this year. Janice had said Jim's only sibling is in a nursing home with Alzheimer's disease, and Janice said her younger sister could help if something were to happen to her, but she said, Team Jim consists of me, myself, and I. And Janice said she wanted to focus on two aspects of caregiving in her talk today: how you take care of yourself and how to manage those feelings of isolation and the loss of your old support system, and how to build in the socialization for both the person being cared for and the caregiver. She said, no one can do this alone. Janice's attitude, commitment, and love for her sweetheart enabled her to embrace the role of a caregiver and find the resources to help them both on their journey through the stages of Alzheimer's. She posed this question to everyone: as a caregiver with no other family to help with the day-to-day needs of my husband, I had to change from an executive focused on my work life and professional goals to a caregiver able to bob and weave for a wholly different set of goals and completely different definition of success. She said, I had to know everything and make all the decisions for two people while working. So how did I do it? Especially when Jim was the one who had always taken care of me. Janice, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, so it's really a very difficult journey, and I have a little bit of a different take on it than the other caregivers. Although we agree on the number one thing is to take care of yourself before you can help someone else. Most importantly is to respect your own body and listen to it. Learning to live with constant stress, daily changes that we see in our loved one, and ambiguous grief really takes a toll on the caregiver. This stress is absorbed into the body and needs to be released. Otherwise, it can cause you disease. Exercise and eating a good, healthy diet for yourself and for your loved one is one of the best things you can do to slow down the progression of the disease and keep you sane and healthy. I've always exercised with Jim by taking classes or walking in nature. Releasing endorphins into my system and physical movement makes me feel good and puts me in a good mood. It addresses stress. I make appointments with myself in my calendar to exercise 3 times a week by taking an hour class at it's called a functional fitness class at the YMCA. I also walk in our neighborhood, which my neighborhood is in Rockland, and go to Rockland Lake or in Congress Lake or with my friends or just alone. This really relaxes me and releases stress. Drinking water, about 8 glasses a day, keeps us hydrated and keeps our systems functioning well, as well as eating lots of vegetables and fruits, and a Mediterranean diet is also good. Everyone has heard about trusting that quote unquote gut feeling. If you don't have your own internal intuition fully charged and ready to rely on, what can you do? So I had to learn this, as Janet said, I was a career woman, and the stress that you have in your career is very, very different than the stress that you receive on a day in, day out basis from your loved one. So I learned how to get in touch with my own intuition by getting quiet, listening, and hearing my own inner guidance. I did this through yoga, breath work, and meditation, similar to what Pat said. I researched, I found resources, and I attended workshops and classes. Mm-hmm. I regularly attend Carol Brill's meditation classes offered by the Valley Cottage and Nyack libraries. During the mild cognitive impairment and early stage, Jim and I would stretch while in our bed and do YouTube meditations by Jason Stevenson and the Mindful Movement and others. This helped ground both of us and started our day from a place of calm. I'm grateful that Jim is very calm today and most days. Mirror work by Louise Hay and her book called You Can Heal Your Life showed me the importance and power of setting intentions and affirmations. For example, if you're having a bad day, and if you look deeply, very deeply in your eyes, in the mirror with a smile on your face, you can shift out your present state to a better place. So I ask you, the next time you're having a bad day, try that. My intuition has guided me through this very challenging journey and activated synchronicity, which helped me through each of Jim's stages. Also, accept them for who they are. People were talking about with the snowflakes, I think it was called, the snowflake effect, the professionals. That was the first time I ever heard that. But that is, I mean, each person has their own mishigas, as we say. And so you have to accept them for who they are. You can't argue with them. You can't raise your voice and lash out at the person with the disease. They know that something is happening to them for which they have no control because they have a disease with no cure. Show them love, empathy, and compassion. Being calm will help both of you to be calm. If it's in your best interest also to let go of all expectations. This includes of yourself and beating yourself up because you didn't do this, or you didn't do that. I shoulda. Let it all go. Your loved one with a disease, it's a disease. They can't help themselves. You know, if somebody they hit you or something like that, they don't know they're hitting you. And others who disappoint you because, you know, when your loved one has this disease, a lot of people don't reach out anymore. They just don't. And
Janice,
a lot of people.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm
do
sorry. I
have-
know, Janice, I should have given you the high sign, but we were having so much fun listening.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
really good stuff.
Such a wonderful, wonderful person.
Especially it is a disease. Absolutely.
Yeah. And thank you, Janice. So many wonderful ideas and thoughts, and this self-compassion that you're talking about also, and letting go of you know, your own negative feelings about this, that there must be something that you can do to control. That's just so priceless. So thank you. You know, it's wonderful to hear what you have to say. So we're going to move on to Judy, and thank you, Brenda. I was having too good a time here. Judy said, "Mom," in this case. Judy's an advanced practice, board certified nurse with over 40 years of experience as an expert educator and practice provider. She's the founder and CEO of NES Associates, Nursing Education Specialists, which is a continuing education company for nurses, doctors, social workers, and all licensed healthcare providers nationally and internationally. And it's a minority women-owned business, something, you know, we go, yes, this is really good. Certified New York State and New York City vendor, no easy thing. And they employ a diverse faculty of over 70 healthcare educators, including advanced practice nurses, healthcare law, and human resources. She said, however, and most importantly, she is mother to a beautiful, strong, and talented 30-year-old young lady named Emily, who suffered a TBI at age 4, and who continues to amaze and make her laugh almost every day. And Judy has many other roles as well, a wife and partner of a very supportive man of 40 years, who I guess is somebody else we need to clone. A mother of 2 other children, Peter, 38, who's a broadcast engineer for NBC Sports, and Amy, 35-year-old, a mental health counselor and compadre. So recently she is a new grandmother. Also, And I just want to read you one other thing about her goals and aspirations. She wants to set her daughter Emily up to be as independent as possible, living outside the family home. So Emily will be set when Judy is no longer on this earth to care for her. She also would like to start a local chapter of the Encephalitis Society in the USA, and perhaps the hardest one, she wants to retire. This is a person with many, many blessings and with a lot of so much gratitude and energy. Thank you, Judy. And everyone, please welcome Judy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for including me. You know, it's, I think, a little bit different caring for or maybe not, because I've listened to the last three caregivers, caring for husbands, parents, etc. But in this case, I was a caregiver for my daughter, a 4-year-old. And I think the goals are a little bit different because I did have the pleasure of caring also for my mother for 3 years, but it was so different. And I'm so grateful that I had that. You know, my trajectory and plans for her were to have fun and, you know, have a wonderful last year or two of her life. And that was it. I knew it would end. But for Emily, I think being a mother, also an advanced practice nurse, and my husband, who's a medical person as well, that we have a lot of medical knowledge, which is a wonderful thing and also a curse. Because it has made me feel sometimes extremely guilty. For example, I'll never forget the day I learned Emily had receptive aphasia and I hadn't realized it. And I looked back on all the things that I had missed, and I went in my office and I cried for 3 hours. So I think the expectations go a little bit beyond what just would be of a mother. And so, you know, I know that we're short on time. What I would really like to emphasize, a lot has already been said, taking care of yourself, etc. And what the last speaker said, was it Patricia, about people all of a sudden are no longer there. That is really very true. You know, she's 30, that was 4. And people do get a little bit tired of it, I think. And so that group that you had no longer, they're there, but kind of more on the outskirts of it. But what I found very helpful are the associations. Laleen Alley has been an extreme help to me, the Brain Injury Association. I also reach out to the Epilepsy Association all the time, not just the one in New York, but the one in Colorado. And I'm very involved with the Encephalitis Association, and they're in the UK. So they have helped me enormously with medications, with treatments, with everything cutting edge. So if there's one thing I'd like to really emphasize and drive home is look outside your scope. You know, whether you live in New York or you live somewhere else and you need some help and some advice, look outside your area. There's professionals, you know, even though there's an epilepsy association in New York, Colorado does fabulous programs every month, a little different. New York is wonderful too, but they do other things as well. So look outside your area. What else have I learned being a caregiver of a brain injury child is that it's very complex, and try to understand, like other people, other caregivers have emphasized, that it's a brain injury and our brain is responsible for different actions. So just like the previous person, if their loved one hit them, a person with a caregiver inhibition and coming out with things that you just want to say, oh no, she didn't just say that. Yes, she said that. You know, she has a brain injury and she can't hold it back. So, you know, I'll just be short and brief. My journey has been long. It's been tiring, but my goal is to allow Emily to get to the point to live independently, because I realize I'm not going to be alive forever, and I want her to be settled. And so that's my goal, different than my goal was with my mother. So.
Absolutely. And every good parent wants their child to be settled, no matter what that looks like.
Right.
So
Exactly.
another reason for us to admire you. What can I tell you?
Thank you. Thank you.
And really one of the main things that really comes from everyone is if you want the best care, you really have to prepare.
Mhm.
You really have to have an idea of what care are you, what are you looking for? What would be helpful? And really sometimes that can be a huge burden to answer that question.
Right.
So that finding your people, finding your groups,
Mhm.
really, it's a tremendous, tremendous help.
Right.
So
And I want to just emphasize too, it goes beyond medical to attorneys, to accountants, to, the TBI waiver and all of these other things. So don't just think medical, it goes beyond that.
right. You have to put together your whole team.
Right.
That's right.
So
That's right.
yeah, how
Great.
true. Yeah. Back to
So-
you, Brenda.
Yes, I heard, as you're all talking, I heard the common thread of take care of yourself, right? Everybody said that, take care of yourself first. The second is, and I like what Judy just said, think of outside of this area, think of outside of the box. So folks, as you're taking care of loved ones with any of the diseases or more that we're talking about, think outside the box. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of ways that you can get assistance. Okay, so we do have a few minutes left. I wanted to open it up. If anyone has any questions, I want to call back all of our presenters, our speakers, and also our caregiver presenters. If anybody has any questions, we have a question here. Debbie, this is for you. What is the life expectancy of someone with MS?
But although it's generally the same life expectancy as someone without MS, it might be just a couple of years left.
Okay. We have time for a couple more questions. Let's see. Excuse me. Nancy, what is the cause of death for someone with Parkinson's?
Similar to how Debbie just responded, Parkinson's is not quote a fatal disease. Things can happen in addition to Parkinson's. People can live a very long life. So maybe, as a complication from a speech or swallowing issue, it could lead to something else. But, generally speaking, it could be lots of different things, but it's not specifically Parkinson's.
Okay. Janet, I believe this is for you. Well, yeah. Does Burke have support groups for folks with MS or additional neurological disorders?
We do. There's a wonderful MS group that's meeting. And of course, Lillian and I are running the TBI group. Everything is remote right now, I'm sorry to say. And that's been very tough on all of us. But I think we're managing. The list of up-to-date support groups is right on the website. So, along with some other community information. I did just want to share one thing that if we have a second, the Parkinson's prepare, it's a fanny pack actually of information to get ready if you are a Parkinson's person and needs to go to the hospital. And so aware and care, the medication form. I am so impressed by you guys. What can I tell you? Everybody on this. Perhaps one of the most outrageous things in it is the bracelet. And, my father never wanted to identify as a Parkinson's patient. And even when we would be standing in the supermarket and he would be rocking back and forth and people were so angry at him for not moving forward. And that, the family, we would have to be the ones to go, gee, I'm really sorry.
Right.
My father has Parkinson's and it's going to take him a little while to go through the aisle. And, I never got over the fact that you could cook an egg on my head every time I had to do that. But it's, but he felt shame. And really, while he was able to speak for himself, he was never able to say, gee, I've got Parkinson's, that's the issue. So a lot is asked from families. So a lot is asked outside my door too. So hopefully that answers that question.
Great. And I mean, folks, we do have to wrap up because we really have no time left. But I want to reiterate that those of you that are listening to this presentation, there's a lot of great information out there. And we will put up a slide at the very, very end. It will be up very briefly, but we will send out an email. You'll get the information on all of our speakers, their websites. If you'd like to contact them, I highly recommend that you do. If you've got questions or any information that you'd like, including that fanny pack, I'm assuming you could get it, Nancy, from the Parkinson's Foundation?
1-800-4PD-INFO, call our helpline,
That's
order your
great.
wear and care kit.
Coolest thing ever. So,
Great.
but I think, you know, it's a blueprint for every illness and every hospitalization.
Right, I agree. Good tip, Janet, good tip. Okay, so I want to say, first of all, thank you. Thank you to all our presenters, Debbie Bannett, Nancy Nealon, Laylene Ali, and Joan Nemo, our caregiver, Janet Goodman. And I also want a special thank you to our caregivers, Patricia Barry, Chris Quezada, Judy Valarelli, and Janice Cohen. Thank you all so much. You are honored, and we honor that you joined us today. Thank you. And thank you to the two special people, our IT people that helped run this presentation, Christopher and Victoria. They help us bring this great presentation to you today. Again, folks, if you'd like information about the Kensington, you can call us 914-390-0080. You see on our screen some good information to contact our speakers. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Brenda, thank you so much for putting this together, and how wonderful to be with everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.